Welcome to another episode of the Fit Over 50 Life podcast. Can love last the long haul, even after heartbreak? We're going to cover all of that in this episode with Jamie and Brian Hackney from Long Haul Marriage. They've been married for 36 years. They counsel people on marriage, divorce, dating, blended families. We cover all of that and more, even man school. You may want to check that out if you're looking for hope, if you're starting over, or you just want a great marriage.
Well said, Kelly. Let's get to it. Okay, welcome everybody to this week's episode. We have a great show for you. We have Brian and Jamie Hackney. Did I say that right, guys?
You said it.
Pleasure to meet you. So here's the deal, guys. If you got a good marriage, you're going to learn how to get it great. If you have a not so good marriage or a bad marriage, I believe in this podcast, you're going to learn how to get it better. And if you are divorced, like two people I know on this podcast, basically you'll learn how to not survive, but thrive big time. Jamie, Brian, welcome to the podcast. Kelly, would you do the proper introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have known Jamie and Brian a long time. My oldest and their youngest, so Nicholas and Carson, were in kindergarten together a very long time ago. And they are such a powerhouse couple, not only in our community, but now they've really rippled out. And they are co-founders of Long Haul Marriage, and it's a Christ-centered ministry that's helping couples navigate the hard stuff. And from saving the struggling marriages to healing after divorce and guiding adults through this messy world of dating again, they do it all with biblical truth, which we love, and practical wisdom, and 36 years of lived experience of a great marriage. So again, Jamie and Brian, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Fit Over 50 Life podcast, where we want to optimize all things over 50, and that especially includes relationships. And you've helped so many couples go from the brink of divorce to deep connection. Let's fast forward to where you are now with Long Haul Marriage. What inspired this?
Well, thank you, first of all. We're honored to be here. And Jamie, I'll jump in, but I want to hear, obviously, from you as well. But so what inspired this is, for over 25 years, we were, doing quote unquote ministry. And so it was a paid for ministry by tithes and donations. And so when we started this place that was called the Healing Place, basically for the last 20 years, I devoted my adult life to helping couples, helping relationships, and not just premarital couples, married couples, couples in crisis, but also, relationships with estranged parents and their children, parenting adult children, kids who are in their early 20s who are struggling because mom and dad divorced, or they've gone off to college and now they're just looking for their way. So it just became this thing that was so amazing because it was paid for, so people had no incentive not to come see me. But what happened is, over time, all of a sudden you've logged in 17,000 hours and seen over 3,500 couples, and because of that, you just start to see patterns, and you start to realize, man. And again, much to the chagrin of the social constructionists, men and women are different. And we're the same, and we're, there's extremes, but man, men and women, and I started seeing what husbands were doing, what wives were doing, and those themes started to emerge, and we could, come back and talk to that. But one thing that I just started realizing is, like, we're no different than anyone else. I mean, so just trying to normalize what everyone's going through, and basically saying, just don't quit. And obviously, as you know, sometimes one partner doesn't want to quit and the other one does, and sometimes you are in a toxic, unhealthy, poisonous, however you want to say it, relationship, and you do need to get out of that. But I think, so what inspired us, we just said, we've always wanted to do this, and Jamie's had it on her vision board. I'll let you talk about that. But man, we started signing our cards back years ago, IIIFTLH. At the bottom was, I'm in it for the long haul. And so it's like, we're just not going to quit. And so now we are so thankful, because obviously we're men and women, we're human. We wanted to quit multiple times, and we didn't say a way out. but we just didn't. And so now we're so proud of the legacy. Yes, the 36 years, the relationship we have with our adult children, and now our grandchildren. And thank God he's blessed us with, they're all local. And so we all have,
Wow.
get together
Nice.
once a week. So it's just, so yeah, that's what's inspired us. And yeah, Jamie, you can fill in the gaps there.
I am excited about what we get to do with long haul marriage, because I remember those days of feeling utterly hopeless and all alone. And it was at a time years ago where we didn't talk about our stuff as much as we do now. And so I truly felt like no one else in the whole world is experiencing struggle in their marriage like we are right now. And the focus was so on me, how I'm struggling. No one else, if anyone ever knew. And then once we began to just kind of crack open and share with a few people, and then at a church we were at the time said we were leaders in our young marrieds class, and no one had any idea what we were struggling with, and they asked us to be the leaders of that class. And so what we presented was strong, confident leaders, which I believe we are and we were, but it was really just shoved down under all of the stuff that was happening in our marriage. And so we began to share with that class of a lot of young couples the struggles that we were dealing with, and we could not believe their response. People said, I would have never guessed that you guys were struggling in this way. Us too. Like we've needed someone to step up and be the one to go first and say we're struggling. And so back then, I think that little seed was planted. And so fast forward, 25 years or more, every year around January I make a vision board, and every single year for about the last 10 years on my vision board and in my journal is a little section for, at some point, Brian and I are going to have a marriage ministry that's going to help give people hope that feel utterly hopeless where I was. And so every year that it wasn't completely coming to fruition, I didn't lose hope. I would just put it on the next vision board and the next vision, just knowing that this day would be coming. And so every year it got a little closer and a little closer and a little closer. So this last January was my first vision board to create, where I I printed off our logo and cut it out and put it in the corner of that vision board. And it brings me to tears thinking about it, because it was a long time coming.
Wow, that's powerful.
We knew that God was growing something in our hearts, and we are finally seeing it come to fruition, and we're watching it really give hope and help to a lot of people.
Love that. I love vision boards are powerful. And so you guys have been married for 36 years. You want to count everyone and counting. And what's one thing that you really wish more couples understood, besides don't quit, about the long game in marriage?
It's interesting you asked that. We just recorded a podcast last week that came out this week about the inverted bell curve of marital satisfaction. And there's tons of research about this, but if you ask everyone, if you look at this, the vertical axis over here, as far as satisfaction, and then the horizontal time, people start up here, and I know this is probably opposite, but the top left, there's, honeymoon phase, right? Totally satisfied, 8, 9, somewhere, if you just did 1 to 10. Well, then, whether it's on the honeymoon where you start seeing red flags like us, I mean, but that first year, people say first year is the hardest. Some people go, oh, no, not for us, but sometimes 5 years, 7 year, it's blah, blah, blah. But at some point that you go down. And then you hit the bottom somewhere, 5, 7, 10 years in. And many times it's because, sweethearts have had kids now. And it's not sweetheart and honey, it's mom and dad. And you're busy and you're making money and you're running kids around. And so a lot of times people report that marital satisfaction is just really, really low. And you're 2 shifts passing the night. Sometimes physical intimacy and romance is waning. What I wish people knew is that if you ask anybody who's been married as long as us, you see that if you can not quit and you start to see over the years, it rise, and then it goes up higher than where you started. Like people reporting the best years of their life. And, I always say we're not empty nesters, we're open nesters. I mean, they're all coming back, and it's crazy. We had 19 people over here on Memorial Day weekend. But I wish they knew if they could get through that, if they could make, everything's about self-love now. And I get it, right? But man, there's sacrificial love that has to happen. Die into yourself, the two becoming one. It's not all about you. And there's so many things that are just countercultural. And I wish people knew that if they could just not quit and hang on and get through it, then you start to, life's happening. So we're evolving, we're changing, we're becoming new people. And I hope you're growing up and you're maturing. And I start to see Jamie totally different. And I can appreciate her and the differences and treasure her and value her instead of thinking she's weird and crazy. Yeah. So, yeah.
I already want to share this episode. Go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead. Hey, so where'd you come up with the name? Who came up with the name?
Great question. I love this story. Jamie, you tell it because I'm talking.
Okay, I'll tell it. So when we knew it was happening, we were about to take the plunge. We were jumping off the cliff. We were going to do it. We thought about the name Legacy Marriage, and the more I thought of that name, it just sounded so, I don't know, trite, or it didn't make sense for us. It just sounded like we've got it together. I don't know. But anyway, it's a beautiful name. And a lot of other people thought it was a beautiful name because when we Googled it, there were some things really super close to that name. So we were like, okay, we want something totally different. So one day, Brian said, what do you think about long haul marriage? And I go, oh, I don't hate it. In other words, I didn't want to be negative. I don't hate it, but I didn't love it. To me, it sounded like a shop where you would take your car, or where you would rent a U-Haul, or like a moving company or something. And so I thought, I don't know. Well, I sat on it for a couple of days and came back to him and said, man, the way that we've signed the reason why he came up with it was because of how we sign our cards. I'm in it for the long haul. And so I thought, you know what? I have fallen in love with that name because that name is us. It might confuse people. It might make people curious. It might be like, what in the world does that name mean? And it will catch people's attention. But more than any of that, it meant something to us. And so I said, I think we should do it. And so
I think
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish up. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I was just going to have Brian tell the story. So one of our now board members, when he ran the name by her, tell me what she said.
Yeah, we were saying, and I thought legacy was it's like, man, we built this legacy, we're proud of it, and we talk about all the early days, and we're very open and transparent and vulnerable, if you will, about all that. So, but it was taken kind of, and Jamie said a lot of things close, and she just wanted something more just kind of organic and kind of dirty and messy and us, right? And so long haul marriage. So I told one of our board members, and she said, I think Jamie's was, I don't hate it. And I think she's like, well, I don't love it. And she goes, it sounds like you're like dragging your spouse's butt around, like hauling his butt around. Or I go, exactly.
Well, it's kind of, I think a good thing you didn't pick legacy with the way people perceive legacy media at this point. You would have been kind of associated with that, maybe in a negative way. But the way I've envisioned long haul is this. I picture it, the long haul is like a trip across the country, and that's a metaphor for a long trip, which is a marriage, is a long trip. And along the way, you got to stop at the bathroom, you got to rest stop, you're going to eat crappy food, somebody's going to get sick, somebody's not going to sleep, you're going to get pulled over by the cops, it's kind of like life. So, when I first heard the name, I was kind of like, but it kind of, it really resonates what it's all about, really. So, kudos.
what you just said. So Jamie comes up with this, I think first just chat GPT and our son, but it's this old car, it's the 57 Chevy or whatever. And it was in this desert and it was driving down this road and you're seeing the sunset way off in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got some miles behind you, and then you're still cruising. And then, we didn't even think about this, but like on day one, when I was setting up our events for the website and for scheduling, we started thinking, wait, how about in the shop? How about a tune-up? How about an overhaul? All these car metaphors that were like really, really working well. And you just gave me a couple more ideas. Mark.
Excellent.
That's great. So Brian and Jamie, our audience are 50 and beyond, and they want to optimize their life. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people over 50 making when they're trying to fix a failing marriage? I've heard people like, well, I'm going to, buy her the big house, or we're going to go on this expensive trip, or, they try these external things. What are some of the other mistakes that people make when they're trying to fix a challenging marriage?
What I see a lot, Kelly, is people think that they need to do these grandiose things. It's going to cost a lot of money, or it's going to take, so much time, more than we, can offer or sacrifice. And what we've realized, and what I see with a lot of other people that we talk to, it's so much more simple than you can imagine. So instead of a big house or a better car or a nicer wardrobe, what I want from Brian Hackney is for him to say, hey babe, do you want to come sit outside? Let's go sit out back for about 10 minutes. Or he doesn't put a time limit. Let's just go sit outside and watch the sunset. And so we've got these egg chairs he bought for me a few years ago for my birthday. And we go sit in the egg chairs for, I don't know, 15 minutes to an hour. Sometimes it's dark before we go back in. But those times where he is just intentionally inviting me, saying, I want to, let's put down our phone, let's put down our computer. I just want to sit here. We can talk or we don't have to, but I want to be with you. As a woman, that's what I want. That makes me feel safe, secure, loved, and cherished. And that didn't cost him a dime. Well, he did have to buy the egg chairs years ago. But besides that didn't.
We bought the egg chairs.
We bought the egg chairs. But it was a surprise for me. So it was. It's just a lot simpler than you think. And another thing is, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. And that's not just a commercial for long haul marriage. Yes, we will help you with that, but reach out to someone to get help. Many people that we hear from, they're like, I'm just so embarrassed, and they dart their eyes away. If we're meeting virtually or in person, it's hard to admit I'm failing at my marriage, the one relationship that matters most to me, and I don't know how to fix this. And we say, us too. That's where we were. And so don't let shame keep you from reaching out for help. And it's simpler than you think.
So you still think the stigma behind feeling like you're failing is out there? Is it prevalent, or has it gotten a little bit better? It seems like everybody's open, a lot more open. I'm a lot more, it's extremely authentic with any struggles that I have.
I think if you're spending any time on social media, you're seeing people that are talking about, therapy. They're talking about their issues. They're being open and transparent. So yes, the stigma has dropped, but I think the stigma around, like anxiety and depression and like getting a therapist, that's that's gone. Like everybody's doing that. But I think it's so personal with your marriage because I don't want to admit that in many times, like Jamie said, they're embarrassed, they're ashamed. They think their problem is worse than anyone else. And these guys, they're going to judge me or they wouldn't understand. So I literally was going to say, one of the biggest problems I see is people, they try to fix it on their own. And it could seem self-serving, you need to reach out for help, but they try to fix it on their own and they have no idea. So they're Googling. If you guys knew how many times people say, well, I Googled this. And if you right now, you went to, your best, Chat GPT, Sesame, VO, whatever the heck, right? And you started saying, what are the top 5 marriage issues for people over 50, you'll see this list, right? And you'll see the communication, conflict resolution, finances, parenting, sex, whatever. But you'll have to dig with like 17 more prompts to get to what are the roots, though? What are underneath that? So what we try to normalize, because especially the men, they're drag kicking and screaming many times because, hey, I don't need someone else to help me fix. I fix, I provide, I protect. I'm the fixer, the problem solver. Women are open. They want to come and they want to get help. But so one of the things we lead off with is being very, again, transparent, very vulnerable. So the guy doesn't feel like I'm the chief of sinners, man. I'm out sinning you, bro. And here's how I screwed up. Here's how I crushed her spirit. So he becomes more open. But what we've seen over and over and over, it's not about what they present. So, okay, so yes, the infidelities happened. Or yes, the fight, as one woman coined it, he committed financial adultery on me. Or we just don't know how to have good, healthy conflict. We're not communicating. But what's underneath? So once you start digging about family of origin issues, the childhood trauma, the previous relationship issues and baggage, that's at the root. That's what's, so what's not my husband's angry, like what's underneath the anger? Where's the fear? Where's the shame? And so it's us getting to the root, and you're not going to find that on Google.
And I think you hit something really powerful I want to reiterate is you mentioned the word patterns. And I think a lot of people tend to internalize, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, that they're the problem. They're not the problem. The problem is they got crappy patterns that they've learned along the way. And if you could separate them, the pattern, from my problem, it makes all the difference in the world in helping them shift the mindset. What's your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree. We always say depersonalize, and I use that word sin. We don't have to call it sin. Sin is to miss the mark, right? So when there is a negative pattern showing up, can you depersonalize it? Can you maybe see, wow, that person learned that at 6 years old? Like they're learning a survival skill, and so they're showing up once they're, quote, trauma triggered. And we have reserved PTSD, for military. I think many times I see people minimize what they went through, and I'm like, that's trauma. This is not overly dramatic to say that was a traumatizing situation.
I totally agree.
Love that. So Brian and Jamie, trust we know is the center and so important, but it's also going to be eroded pretty quickly. You mentioned the honeymoon. I mean, just planning the wedding. I mean, trust can be lost and broken, and then go through a little bit of time and season, have kids together. You've got two hurting people hurting each other. Trust is constantly kind of being chipped away at. So how do you start to restore that after there's been, not just a little pain, but sometimes really deep pain? You mentioned betrayal, disconnect, any of those things. How do you start to rebuild that trust?
It does take time. Brian always tells people forgiveness is past oriented, trust is future oriented. And so to begin to trust again, first to make that decision, I want to trust him again, and to begin to really pray about that. God, would you help rebuild the trust in me? If there are lies that I've allowed to attach to me, any false beliefs or whatever, would you help me be aware? Would you help me to see those things and get rid of those in my life? And so begin to really focus on that. We always say what you focus on grows. What you focus on grows. So when you focus on, I'm going to trust him again, I want to begin to rebuild this, and I believe it can happen. God, I believe that you can rewire my brain, you can rewire my heart, you can take away these beliefs and these lies. And then when you, in a marriage, whenever let's say there's been something with Brian, if we can have a conversation about it, if we can have open communication, it's something that we are rebuilding together. And so he knows where my heart is tender towards that, and I know where his struggles are with that, and it's just an open dialogue between us. And I think if you can be open with your communication with your spouse, trust that God can help you rebuild what has been broken down. I really do believe, and you just allow a little bit of time. Some people think, gosh, it didn't happen in 4 days. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And that's not the truth. It's going to take some time. And what I tell in any women that I meet with, whether it's a 20-year-old or a 70-year-old, it is about your marriage, but so much of it is about you as well. And so spend time being still and quiet and in meditation and in prayer and just listening, asking God questions, and then just saying, teach me. I'm here to listen. I'm not here to just rattle off my list of things that I want to, want you to pray for, like I'm in the, self-checkout at Tom Thumb or something. Whoop. I want to just ask you a question and say, God, speak over me. Who do you see me as? What are things that I've been believing? And I promise you, he wants to speak to break those things off of you. But so many times in a marriage, it's so easy to focus on the other, on the spouse, that they're the problem. That's the issue. If he would only do this, then I would, instead of saying, okay, I need to pull back from that and say, God, would you teach me anything in my heart that needs to be changed, that things that need to be uprooted, and let it start with you. And then one thing I read from a book that has been so helpful for me through the years, it was a book by Walter Wangerin, As For Me and My House. And he said, you're in this cycle of whether it's distrust or it's just the wall of resentment is so high, and you just can barely look at your spouse because there's just, hatred, disgust, whatever it is, so much bitterness. And so he said to think of, so there's you and your spouse, and think of a third person in your marriage, and that is the marriage. That is the marriage. And you can think of like that's where God brought you two together. And so when I can't do it for Brian, because the hurt is so deep, I'm so wounded, I couldn't even think of doing something nice for him, I can do it for the marriage. And something in my psyche changed. I could do it for the marriage because I had a dog in that fight. Or my heart of empathy went towards the marriage, and I wanted to do it for the marriage. So some kind, compassionate thing, something benevolent that I felt like, man, the old me would have wanted to do this for Brian, but I just can't stand him, so I can't do it. But can I do it for the marriage? And I know that sounds a little bit wonky, but it just began to change the cycle enough to where instead of digging the hole, it was, going in an upward trajectory instead. So do it for the marriage. That was a huge thing that changed a lot for me when I read it.
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I was going to piggyback off when she mentioned Walter Wangerin Jr. As For Me in My House. Usually what happens early in marriage is when there is you said it, Kelly, hurt people, and then you're compounding it. And sometimes it hurts just so much, you're stuck in resentment. And so when Jamie mentioned forgiveness, that when I marry couples, we talk about unconditional love, but then I end with forgiveness. It's the most important word in marriage. So what would prevent you from ever getting to forgiveness, right? It's a hardened heart. And so Walter Wangerin Jr. finally realized, man, I crushed my wife's spirit. And it said, even once you've realized that, instead of, well, you do this, the tit for tat, it's you realizing, man, I've hurt her deeply, and I need to change. Well, if her heart is, Gary Smalley, who did the love languages, his son Greg said, your heart is never half open or half closed. If your heart is closed, it's closed. And so sometimes the mistake is, and why people can't get over that, is you're just kind of stuck in that resentment. And so you can't even recognize the change or don't want to see the change, or it's just not landing. And God bless them. If you're in ICU because I've been shooting you, I may put the gun down, but you're still in ICU wounded, right? Yeah. So it's going to take the time. And so what I think is so important is the husband or the wife acknowledging. We always say forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you, blah, blah, blah. But in marriage, when the two are one, to open that heart back up, for me to be able to, like, forgiveness is past, but trust is future. Have you acknowledged what you did? Because if you don't acknowledge it, if it's just, well, you did this, you did that, you're not secure in the fact that they're not going to keep doing it. And so it's so good for that husband or that wife to look them in the eye, and I hurt you, and I'm sorry. It's like, oh, okay, they get it. So now I can trust that they don't want to do it again.
Brian,
I think that is it. Go ahead, Kelly. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Brian used the word forgiveness 3 times, and it's such a big one. And it is the past. And I know personally, because I was stuck in unforgiveness and bitterness for a very long time. It was eating me alive. And, we could sit there and say, well, I was justified. And can you walk people through? Because this is such a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk for hours on forgiveness, but some of the key points about the importance of forgiveness in relationships, especially marriage, but you can apply it to any relationship.
I think what's interesting is until I was introduced to this, I'll just try to keep this very, the contemplative way, where it not the non-binary or dualistic way of thinking. It's either right or wrong, or Republican, Democrat, men or women, black or white. It's like it's this dualistic frame. When people would ask Jesus a question, he would always ask another question. He was reframing it from a dualistic. Hey, well, what about this? Is it this or this? He was like, this is an insane framing. So it's like nothing's going to be true if I answer either or, right? So once you get introduced to this contemplative frame, you just realize we're simultaneous saint and sinner. We're not either one. We're both. And so I think it starts with admitting, man, I'm selfish. Everything up until meeting your spouse, it was this egocentric, self-referential way of seeing everything. And I mean, why not? That's what you were about. Well, you have to learn to die to that and become one. And so it starts by becoming so, and I think Jamie said it, just looking inward and saying, wow, you know what? I have a part in this. And so the forgiveness is never going to come if you're focused on what that person's doing. That's when the contempt, criticism, stonewalling, and defensiveness, are happening. And those are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that John Gottman says will lead to divorce. It's this man looking in and saying, man, you got to start with, I'm a selfish son of a, what? and I need to admit that. And once you do, your eyes are opened to so many things. And I just think we're easier then to forgive. The other point, and then I'll let Jamie jump in. There's 2 things that I heard a couple, they said, if you want to revolutionize your marriage, they've been married now over 65 years. They said, do 2 things. 1, avoid the temptation to criticize. And then they said, and thank each other often. And thank each other often. Because, and be specific. Like Jamie and I have learned this. We thank each other so, and for things that most people just take for granted. And when she thanks me and she's specific, it fosters a heart of gratitude. If you're being thankful for your spouse, you're grateful for things. And so that will, I think, foster a heart of forgiveness instead of this scrutinizing, gotcha stuff.
Jamie?
I think everyone has a reason, and I am a deep empath. I have a strong empathy side to me. But I think anybody can look at someone else like this. Like you said before, Kelly, hurt people. But if you go deeper than that and you think, what has hurt him so deeply? So if I'm thinking about Brian and all the things that, the hurt that has come from, from the early years of our marriage. And even sometimes now, it's not like, oh, we've got it all together now. We still hurt each other, and so if I look back and I think, what are some things that really caused him a lot of pain or a lot of trauma? And I picture him as not this, can I tell your age? He doesn't care.
Yeah. Oh, tell it out.
That's great.
He's almost 60. But if I picture him as this 10-year-old kid, just, or a 5-year-old little kindergarten boy like Nicholas and Carson were, and I just picture how he was, before hurt or trauma entered his life, something cracks open in my heart for him. And I see him before all the stuff that happened in his life to bring him to this point. And just that alone helps me to, it births some understanding in me for him, a love and a compassion that was kind of buried under just a lot of deep hurt. And so whenever I can picture whoever it is that has hurt me as a younger person before all this happened, and even go to God and ask questions like, what, help me picture them before all of this. What did they look like? What did they act like? What did they laugh about? What brought them joy? So much of that has just been beat out of people, and you only see the person they are now, still living in that woundedness. So that making that mental picture of when they were younger, before all of, before life happened to them, sometimes is enough to at least, just open up a new part of your brain and your heart to feel them and understand them a little bit differently.
Excellent. So you brought up, I think it was Brian, you brought up earlier in the podcast something about the curve. What was that curve called again?
Bell curve.
The inverted bell curve of marital satisfaction.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of interesting that if more people sat down with young people and said, hey, this is what's going to happen most likely the first couple of years of your marriage. You're going to be focusing on wealth. Things are going to be in balance. You got God, family, and business. Maybe, business, is there, but, ultimately those values are going to shift back and forth. Then you're going to have kids. And when you have kids, as a man, you're so used to being selfish here. You're going to be the, on the back burner here. You are now the protector of the family, this and that. And then you may feel like you're not getting the attention and time you're getting for the spouse. It'll be a little bit different. This is what you're going to expect. Then at this phase, but if you can this is where you have a lot of trouble. So if somebody literally would teach all of us the roadmap, because, school doesn't really teach that much. Now, if you're in a Christian school, maybe it's a little bit different. I didn't go to a Christian school here. So I got kicked out of Sunday school. I told Kelly that, before we did this podcast here. So I am not the expert at this stuff, but I am certainly here to learn. If there was a roadmap that teach young people, I think we'd have a lot less of, it's very easy to glamorize big houses, cars, money, success, and, people go for that immediate gratification. And what you all teach, that's my Southern Texas accent from New Jersey, South Jersey, is y'all teach, fulfillment. And there's a big difference between immediate gratification and fulfillment. Thoughts?
Yes, I say all the time. I was just talking to one of my clients. He was in town. He's about to drive back to Austin. He's this, young kid who just graduated. He was a baseball player, and he's, the world is his oyster. And they're about to be engaged, and this, he didn't learn anything that he needed to learn about marriage, about being a man. What he learned was what our culture, it's the locker room, it's the movies, taught about masculinity. Yeah. And he's like, his eyes are open, and he's like, and he loves his dad. Dad the best he could, but again, we can't give what we don't have, right? And his dad wasn't taught. And so they never connected on that level. And I said, I really want to open man school. Like we need to have a school. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Like to teach that. So one of the things I said earlier, when you just normalize this, I don't know, maybe it was Freud or Jung or something said our greatest human need is not solutions, it's solidarity. And most of life's huge problems cannot be solved. They can just be outgrown. And this is so important when you're doing marriage work. So because you just think, oh, I'm the only one, I'm crazy, or my spouse is the worst. If we could be more like them. But when they hear, no, we're just like you. We're going through the same thing. And those, like I said, those patterns. So it's don't quit. And, okay, let's learn some stuff. I think the myths that it should be this thing, you're my person, you're my soulmate. Soulmates are not found, they're made. You choose. All these things we're saying to do, you have to choose to do them. The antidote to suffering is gratitude. You have to choose to be grateful. I could wake up, let me say it this way. Jamie could wake up every day and make a list of 5 things that annoy her about Brian. I mean, she could. It's way longer than 5, right? Or she could say, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to make a list of things that I'm grateful for. Mm-hmm. And again, what you water grows, and Jamie, what you attend to. So that's the thing. So when you tell these youngsters, well, it shouldn't be this hard. Who said? Anything worth anything is going to be hard, right? No pain, no gain. And so when you look at this triangle of passion and intimacy and commitment, right? Passion is the hot, that's biological, right? And then the commitment, intimacy, that's the warm, that's the emotional. And then at the bottom, you have this foundational, the commitment. That's the willful. That's cold sometimes. It's like, man, I don't feel it, but I'm going to do it. I'm just going to choose to do it. People are surprised by that. They're wondering, is the passion going to wane? Of course. Sometimes I'm not going to feel it. That emotional connection is not going to be there. Of course. So what's going to be undergirding then anything that's going to stay? It's the commitment. And that's a choice. Yeah.
Very good.
Practical tips that you're giving. Jamie reminded me of a course I took earlier this year. It was called Nonviolent Communication. I like to call it compassionate communication. But lesson 1 was about to consider why the person might be behaving the way that they are. And it asks you to think of a specific situation and then come up with a list. And it really lets you go deep into like, wow, when you really start to consider that person and why they're behaving this way, it did give you so much empathy. And it may be natural for you, but I think for most of us, and I think I'm that way a little bit too, but probably for most people, that is not an exercise that they would consider doing. So I just want to make that comment. At the beginning, you both mentioned the word shame, and then we know that's a tactic, and that is a big deal. And Mark and I, having been through a divorce, and I did get certified as a divorce coach and a mental health care coach, and shame is just all over it. What I have found and learned is that the person who leaves the relationship is just filled with shame, and the person who's left is filled with rejection. And we know fear is on both of them. So maybe you can speak to the shame and the rejection, and how do we get past that?
Kelly, you just mentioned the word that I love this. Thank you, God, for just making this flow. It's a perfect segue. We have 2 different times we set out to craft a 1 or 2 day marriage workshop. And you can't start, when we talk about the root, I have to go back to the garden story. It is the ubiquitous condition of man, shame. That's why that story has survived so long. That's why it's told. And it's so interesting. If you ask most people, and I know you asked, how do you get over that? So it's going to be a work of the Holy Spirit. But we have to again understand what I think Jesus was trying to tell us, what God was trying to tell us. If you ask most people what was the fall of man, they'll give you some kind of story about, well, God said don't do something, we did, and so he's mad, and it's like disobedience. It's like, whoa, go back. He said the forbidden fruit was the knowledge of good and evil. That's interesting, right? Wouldn't all of us good Christians need the knowledge of good? The knowledge of good leads to pride. The knowledge of evil leads to shame. He never intended that. So when we partook of that fruit, our eyes were open. We hid. We felt shame. We were naked and unashamed before, and now so it's this condition of shame that happens to all of us. And you can hear God. I don't want to add in the expletive, but he's like, oh, why are you hiding? He's not saying, where are you? Like, I can't find. He's like, oh my gosh, why are you hiding? And so, the story, they're covering themselves because of shame, temporary fig leaves, whatever. Who sews the permanent covering? God does. He covers our shame. He doesn't expose it. And what was that for? That wasn't so God could coexist with man. Oh, God can't coexist. Yes, he can. that was so man could coexist with God. That in Hebrews, once and for all, the culmination of the ages, I created this sacrifice. That wasn't for me. That was for you because of your guilty conscience. The blood of bulls and goats wasn't for me. And so he was saying all along, you projected this thing. The good news, the gospel, 2 Corinthians 5, I don't count your sins against you. You have. So we feel shame because we still think we're hiding. We think God sees. Of course he sees us. And so when you see Jesus came not to change God's mind about man, we think he's like, oh, don't hurt him. No, he came to change man's mind about God. He's showing us the nature of God. And so we have to lose the shame. In the environment of no shame is where we're going to come out with the things that we're ashamed of. Again, those roots, all those things that happened many times to us. It's not the things we did. It was this molestation, the bullying, the parents that said, you'll never amount to anything. It was one of my clients whose dad threw him off, called him a name, and threw him off the roof while they were working on a chimney. And he's had to live with that his entire life. Told the story that I fell off the roof horseplay because he's so ashamed. And so, of course, then that leads to addiction. Of course, that leads to promiscuity, looking for validation outside of our marriage. We're, drinking, whatever, because we're medicating the pain. So God wants to go heal that pain. When our identity now is in Christ and not in shame, then we have no reason to medicate. And the medication is usually what we call sin. But that mark was missed way early in our lives. So, yeah, how to get rid of shame, I think we have to change our whole theology about God and how he sees us. I think if God is the righteous judge that I know he is, and the Father, when he sees us and we come before him, he doesn't say, oh, I'm sending you to hell. He says, time served. You've been in hell. I want to get you out. No wonder you were malfunctioning. Hear me. It was malfunctioning. Jesus, the woman at the well. You're with what guy? 5, 6? The one you're with now is not your husband. But he's not condemning her because in calling her the names. He's probably in the earlier part of the conversation that we're not privy to said, tell me about your dad. And she said he was never there for me. Of course he wasn't. So you're going to the man well for your identity, for your identity, for your validation. And beautiful metaphor, at the end of that story, she leaves her bucket. Like, I'm not going back to that well. Let me give you everlasting water, living water that never runs out. So, yeah. Yeah. That is it for me. You can't move forward if you still have this, but you said it. If you have shame, you're just never gonna get anywhere.
Jamie, you want to add something?
Yeah. When you are healing from shame, our natural urge is to hurry through healing. And it is a healing, that's for sure, that God wants to do in our hearts. And our natural urge is to hurry through healing. So we want to experience a microwave healing. And what I've seen is it's really more of a crock pot kind of healing from that shame. And we have to sit in it for just a little bit, but not by ourselves and not distracting ourselves into oblivion. We have to sit in the uncomfortable and just say, God, I am here and I am asking you to help me go back and pull off any band-aids that I've just thrown on, just trying to heal myself or, just try to make myself just good enough to move forward. And I want all the band-aids gone. I mean, open heart surgery, here we go. God, do it. And you are going to have to learn to sit in the uncomfortable and give it the time that it deserves. There's a quote I love that says, the process of blooming is as valuable as the flower it produces. So we want the flower. We want the beautiful garden of our life, just boom. But what we don't realize is when the seeds are buried underneath the dirt, there is good work that's already happening there, but we want it to hurry. Let's go. I got a life to live. Well, we can choose to move forward quickly and not let it be a complete healing. And it really is a lifelong journey. But I think we just want to hurry it along and not just we won't sit in that uncomfortable, but we don't want to be a part of that. That is yucky to go back and visit some of the reasons why we feel shame in the first place. And so we want to distract ourselves. And so the very thing we're distracting ourselves, which is usually dumb social media, which can be a great tool, but it can also be a huge distraction. So as I'm looking through social media, just because I'm like, I don't want to feel what I'm feeling, or I don't want to think what I'm thinking, and so let me just, out of boredom or out of just distracting myself, let me just scroll. And so what I see, I don't care if you're, like I said, if you're 18 or if you're 81, this is a struggle for us, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon, because at any moment of any day, you can just start to look at everybody else's lives. And I can look and I can see friends that have planted a beautiful garden. And then I see another friend who's drinking some kind of green juice that's supposed to be the, fountain of youth for her. And then I see another, girl that is like an amazing mom, and she's taking her kids on this incredible field trip. And then I see someone's beautiful curated home. And so in my mind, all of that is one woman, and I'm not her, and I will never be her. I cannot be that person. So I've made this conglomerate of all these different amazing people into one, and that's not me. And so I've completely shifted my focus from being quiet and still and present and in the moment and healing to, let me just pile onto my shame. I haven't lost any. As a matter of fact, I feel more shame and guilt than I did before.
Let me just share with you. So I spent 20 great years in a marriage, everything you could ask for. Great neighbors, went on vacations, gave my family a wonderful lifestyle, I believe. I worked my butt off for that. We all sacrificed a lot. I would spend 180 days a year traveling for, working for somebody else, then for my own business. Somewhere around 50 is where it kind of all just fell apart. And I realize why when I reflect back on it. And I'm at peace with it, but, I think at this point, the shame that I had that I wasn't a strong enough man to keep it all together is probably the thing I struggle with the most. And ultimately, I initiated the divorce. I lost the family identity. I went out there and took on what I call is a D-bag a mentality, external this, car, nice house, everything you think that would on the outside make you happy, and it made me miserable. And, my family's definitely suffering for it at this point because it's a broken family. So how do you handle things like that? I mean, I've definitely found God in my life. I'm thankful for Kelly, and just, it's kind of the story of you run out of bad things to do, so you find God. I think I'm definitely that dude for the most part. Still, I kind of stick my toe in, and then I'm like, okay, fine. Then I stick my toe out. But I'm getting better and better. The people I have in my life are very good at committed. So, who are you around? But finding peace with what didn't work has been a struggle for me, for sure. And what's your thoughts on that?
Man, Mark, first of all, good night. Thank you just for being so transparent there and authentic in sharing that. This is so tricky. There's a couple of areas in my life that the old man, wants to resurrect. It's like this day. That's what daily take up your cross. And where are you going? You're going to die. There's got to be a death before there's a resurrection. Most of us keep propping up that. And why? Because we're haunted. And so Peter Rollins, this philosopher from Belfast, Ireland, begrudging, I'd say theologian, got dragged kicking and screaming into the evangelical kind of world. He says we're all haunted houses full of ghosts, people that have hurt us and people we've hurt, people we've loved and people that we've lost. He says, if you face your ghosts, they leave. If you don't, they become poltergeists knocking crap around in your house. Most men I know, we've all screwed it up by 50. I mean, all of us. And
Yeah.
so it's like, and you exercise some ghosts because you said it out loud. Most of us are just defensive and no, and we're blaming and shaming. But then the question is, gosh, the regret, the loss, and what I did. So the first step is admitting that, and then the question is this where I die? Is this the end, or is there? And man, again, when I say it's tricky, who knows? For me, I started like going, all the stuff that we know. It's like, I know I should probably exercise. I know I should probably get more sunlight. I know I should probably eat better. But we don't. All the things that I heard that kind of thought maybe that's kind of woo. Jamie, affirmations, visualization, writing down the affirmations, the promises, who I am, not who I'm not, and saying those out loud and repeating those daily. I mean, man, I started going head first, Mark, into that. Like if I don't, that's my recipe for the good day that turns into a good week and good month. If I don't, I can lay there and man, I go to bed and I'm having these dreams and I'm just like haunted in my dream, nightmares. I wake up and I'm sitting there ruminating on that. I mean, most of us, we have no idea how to really take thoughts captive. And that's it. Because I am more than my thoughts and feelings, right? I'm the manifest presence of God in the world. I have to say that. Otherwise, I'll become my thoughts and feelings. And so, talk about fit life over 50. I started, man, if I heard that you can get your body into a state of autophagy by fasting and doing a water fast for 7 days and heal all kinds of disease and end, all life mortality, decrease the cancer rate by 75%, I'm going to do it. If I'm going to, cold plunge, does this, I'm going to do it. Grounding, doing my affirmations, meditation, I have to do that. And it's not optional. And I'm just telling you, Mark, when I don't do that, I lose mental health, ground big time, very, very quickly. So yeah,
I think what you shared is pretty common sense, but I think it realized what I would take away from this, and I hope our viewers or listeners would take away from this, is that you got to work at anything you want to be good in your life. You want a good marriage, you got to work at it. Okay. Does it get better in the golden years as you guys are entering into? I got to believe the day you had for Memorial Day where you had all the family over there, that's what everybody dreams of, man. So, you don't realize it when your first marriage that boom, life's going to go by fast because you're trying to, what's they say, the years go fast and the days go slow when the kids are young. I mean, you're just trying to get through it. And I teach that to every young couple. I says, enjoy it because it's going to be gone before you know it there. Okay. But really, you guys have set a great example. Now, Kelly, you got something you want to say since you're back on screen here? Because I want to read this article.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to try to share this, guys, with you. So one of the things we're going to be incorporating into our show is we're going to do some, topics that are out there, mostly in the health and fitness. But this thing came up, and I want to see what you guys think of this. So I'm going to share my screens. I don't know how this is going to go with 4 people on with this platform here. All right. This came out. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was out in the Daily Mail. This came out May 7th, and it says, psychologists reveal the single toxic phrase that could ruin your relationship. It's here from body shaming to willful sciences. There are multiple verbal red flags that can spell doom for couples. Experts say there are many things that should never come out of your mouth, even in the middle of a red hot shouting match. It says American psychologists reveal the single most toxic phrase. I don't know if you guys are reading this. I don't want you to read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, it goes on and on. It says there's one phrase that comes up in these exchanges that is more damaging than any of you think. Anybody want to take a Kelly? You want to take a guess what it is?
I read it. Yeah.
Yeah, you read it. So I did a terrible job.
I think people threaten divorce or I think that's really toxic when people are like
Threatening divorce
or doing something that puts people in
I did that
fear.
4,000 times, so
So
that's
I don't
not
like
good.
that one personally.
Yeah, I know. Brian, you saw it. Jamie, did you see it?
I did not see it. And
What you think it may be?
I don't know. I wanted to say what Kelly said, but I think it's a trick question, so it's not divorce. But I don't know.
Well, the amazing part in this, and this is not to stroke, I think you said it more than 3 times, I think, Brian, to stroke your ego. but you already said it numerous times. And the single phrase is, why can't you be more like somebody else?
Comparison.
Basically
Comparison.
minimizing through comparison here. So what's your thoughts on that, guys? You've seen this probably numerous times with counseling couples.
My first initial thoughts are, anytime I see anything current, and it's I mean, I hate to say this, but if it's like published or written by someone who's 25, I think they just use Chat GPT and said, okay, here's the headline, and I'm like, oh, is that even true, right? Is that a toxic thing to say? Absolutely. And maybe out of the 300 people or 3,000 people that came up over and over, the comparison, when John Gottman talks about these in his research, and I mean, it's extensive. And I mean, it's pretty impressive, the type of research he does. But when he says contempt, criticism, which that's both contempt and like criticism, like, I don't like who you are. Why don't you be like someone else, right? And then defensiveness and stonewalling, that's another thing. But first of all, it's so misguided, because many women do this with their dress. That's why husbands hate going to church many times, because you're seeing this pastor up on stage, and everybody's, oh, why can't you be like that pastor? And you're like, man, he's full of crap. We just haven't seen it yet, right? but I mean, he's just a dude, right? And even if he's not like some heinous sinner and covering up some huge scandal or whatever, he's still a man. And so it's misguided in thinking that somebody else's crap don't stink. And then the other part is, you're saying, I don't see you for who you are and love you and accept that. I want you to be someone different. So I think by that point, I just think critical nature is in and contempt is set in. Yeah.
Kelly?
Yeah, so many good things. So on a personal note, because I want to get this question in, because I think I'm not alone in this, our audience, 50 plus, we know the number one age for divorce is 30, the number two age for divorce is 50, the divorce rate is about 50%, so at least a good percentage of our audience is probably dealing with this, and we know people can get in two ends of a ditch. So once someone is divorced, there's some people who completely swear off, like, I'm just going to be alone, I'm just going to be single, I don't need another person, this single life is not so bad. And then there's other people who go, date, whether they're on dating sites or they, are promiscuous. Brian, you said something really profound to me as you were walking me through, the end of marriage counseling, divorce and post-divorce, that your healing will come from that next relationship. And I've done now 7 years of deep healing work, but I still haven't really let my heart walls down to consider dating again. So is there anything either one of you would say to the people who are out there going, I don't know if I can do this again? Like, that first one nearly took me out. Do I want to, do this again? What does that look like?
And I want to clarify too, because I can hear so many people pushing back saying, what? He said that? Like, no, it's all, you need to heal yourself first, which, yes. But then that self-love, and I don't need anyone else to make me feel self-actualized or whole or fulfilled. It's all about finding happiness within myself. Okay, all that's good. Yes. And it's when that hurt has come in the context of a relationship, I just think true, complete healing has to come in the context of another relationship. Otherwise, you don't know if you're healed in that context, right? Which we're talking about a relationship. So it's not about that other person healing you. I want to make sure that's it. It's in the context of another relationship. Yes. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, I remember that very specifically, because I could sit here and go, hey, the dog died, the kids are gone, my life is great, this is amazing. But until that next person, I'm in a house with them and I'm like, the cap is off the toothpaste, and that's the next level, and I can allow myself to love.
Do you two find in your counseling that that's more, is it gender-based? Do you find men more lock into relationships much quicker? Women tend to process things differently? Because as far as I know, my ex is not a dating. I mean, we've had texting back and forth, and she says, I'm not with anybody at this point. And I don't know Kelly's personal life that much, but for the most part, I think she made it pretty clear she's off the market right now and hasn't put that she hasn't put that vibration out into the universe. I've been working on her, guys. Okay, so I've been working on her. Okay, I'm gonna take her dog, her kids away, all that stuff away. She's gonna have no choice. Okay, so
I think there's a humility baked in, when you realize I'm gonna again put myself back into a situation where I could get hurt, right? And in our culture, yes, I see men, they don't want to be alone. They're going to fall right back into it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be even a rebound. They're just open to it. They don't want to be alone, and women, hey, we're going to get what we need, I can do without sex. Many women over 50 like, okay, some not, but many just say, hey, I want companionship, I want friendship, I want intimacy. I can get that with other women. And you add to that the myth that all men are, the tyrannical patriarchy, and they're all, oppressors, and they're all, cheaters, and fill in the blank. I mean, so who needs them? That's where so many of women are these days. So yeah, I think they're finding it a lot easier to be just single and hang out with their girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. As the older you get, the less of a threshold you have for BS and things.
Yes.
Because you guys know that you have to go through a hell of a lot of. It's kind of like the what was that movie with Morgan Freeman?
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption. We said
he's going through all the crap, and he's going through it, and you're like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe this!" And you feel like you're in it, and that's kind of like getting a new relationship going. You have to go through that. I mean, obviously, after the honeymoon phase, let's say where everybody's on their best behavior the first 6 months. I'll tell you a quick story, since I'm going to fess up here. It wasn't until, hey, this is good therapy. You guys are, you guys are awesome. So
You're good.
So it wasn't until I got out of my relationship, started dating, hurt somebody else, and then I realized, you're the problem, Mark. This is how I healed. I said, you hurt another person, exactly what you did to your ex. And when that took place and I saw the pain I caused, it shook me. Okay. And I went to my ex and I said to her, I am sorry. I never made you feel beautiful, loved, or special.
Wow.
And she actually, messaged my daughter and said, what I said to her. And it was a brief moment of where we had some peace. And I realized that was something. Now, this was baggage I got from my dad. My dad was a horribly abusive to my mom. My mom never felt love, all that stuff. She had 13 brothers and sisters. She was molested as a child. Forget it. It was just, it's a lot to unwrap, but it wasn't until I did another level of it that I realized that they're not the problem. I got a younger woman. I got this. I got that. It's not that. It's not, hey, she's 50 some.
Nope.
So it took a long time, man. So
what you just said,
yeah.
What you just said, and I want people to hear, regardless if you ever get into another relationship, what saves you, and I mean this, and I don't mean, okay, now you're going to heaven. I mean, saves you. What resurrects you. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If you stay in that and you never admit that, so a man thinks in his heart, so is he. When you gave that text, that letter, when you spoke that, a part of you, literally a part of you just resurrected, and that's who you're going to look in the mirror. That's who you're going to go to bed with, and that saves your life, literally. And so I commend you for that. And most people just don't ever get there.
It takes a lot to really raise your emotional intelligence. You got to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of reading, a lot of podcasts listening to, a lot of watching videos, and then you got to fight confirmation bias, where which we all know is always probably the biggest problem. I call it the curse of validation, confirmation bias. It keeps you in that same loop of the same thoughts and the same habits and the same patterns.
You got it.
Did I ever tell you that story or no?
No, you didn't. It's a good one. I got chills.
Okay. So,
That's good.
welcome to the Mark Patrick confession hour.
Yeah. In this, I told you, I mentioned, Peter Rollins, and I mentioned this contemplative way. I can't go without, like, literally, I would have traded. I mean, I grew up in this fundamentalist religious system, and more about strict sectarian kind of legalistic, blah blah blah. But when I met online Richard Rohr, Rohr, who has written the Universal Christ, the Wisdom Pattern, Falling Upward. Falling Upward is brilliant if you go to YouTube but the way he talks about, he called it literally the wisdom pattern. But we start with order. Some of us don't. We start with chaos, and if we find order through God, it's like, oh my gosh, they're the ones who. It becomes this gross thing that's too structured, too ordered. And it's like, so it's a better start to start with order and kind of have what he calls a container, kind of have some good ego. But it's bad because you're going to have to lose that. But it's good to start there. But it says there's order, then there's chaos, and then reorder. Construction, deconstruction, reconstruction. You can say in nature there's fall, winter, death, spring. The Bible, life, death, resurrection. And hear me, there's no nonstop flight. Here's this word I love. There's no nonstop flight from box 1 to box 3. You have to go through the dying. And this is what none of us want to do, none of us want to admit, none of us want to talk about, but literally, Mark, it's not just the death you died. It's like, it's us going, damn it, I did that. That's it. That is where the salvation comes. That's where the resurrection comes.
Okay.
That's where the new life comes.
I want to hear Jamie tell me how awesome I am. Okay, enough. Okay, so come on, Jamie. I want to hear the woman's perspective here.
I will say I did get a little teary thinking of your wife hearing that from you. Mm-hmm. And so even if it may not change anything about y'all getting back together, or any of that in the future, it changed. So it kind of set her free to heal in a way that maybe she had been in bondage before. You released in that moment probably so much shame for her, because as women, we tend to own a lot. We tend to think, what did I do wrong? Or I shoulda, coulda, woulda, this or that. And what you did in that moment, I think it was a moment of obedience, honestly. It was like buy one, get one free. Like you both were set free in that moment. I applaud you for having the self-awareness and the thoughtfulness to get to that moment of, like that revelation that you had, and then taking it one step further, making amends and going back and kind of revisiting, that it would have been super easy for you just to take that nugget and go, wow, this is about me. Okay, what's that about, God? And move forward. But you went back, and I think that was, man.
Also, Richard Rohr says in his book, Breathing Underwater, that I didn't mention, he talks about the 12 steps and how biblical. He says Bill Wilson in the big book, he said it could be the most significant contribution to spirituality that the West ever made. And that I was going to say, yes, the making amends. You just took that step. Well done.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was alcohol detox that brought that 12 step on. So
there you go. Yeah.
Very good. Kelly.
Yeah, so for those people who are considering that next relationship at this midlife age, what are some of the red flags to look out for? Because you are coming from some patterns that didn't work out, and now there's trauma bonding and gaslighting, and all these things we want to avoid. So either what are the red flags to avoid, or what is the maturity that you're looking for, or maybe both?
For the two questions I would ask someone in a conversation is, tell me about any trauma from your growing up, your childhood, that you may bring into a relationship, and any unhealed trauma or baggage from a previous relationship that you may bring in. I would love to hear those two things. For sure, ask them about their relationship with their moms and dads. But the other thing is just staying off of freaking social media and taking, if I hear the word narcissist one more time, oh my gosh. So these self-diagnosed, and I get it, are there narcissists out there? Yeah. But so many times, man, trust yourself, critically think for yourself, trust your gut instinct, and then again, ask those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, what do
And
you?
I would say, I know at 50 and you're dating again, first of all, build that foundation of a friendship for a while. I know your heart is, could be hungry and aching for that physical intimacy. And sometimes that can just honestly muddy the waters. And so just build that deep friendship first and have fun together. This is a new season of your life where you're not having to get babysitters anymore. You're not having to, all the things that we used to have to do. There's so much freedom in this stage of our lives. It can really be a beautiful thing. So build that friendship, enjoy, try new things. And I would say if it starts to get serious and you are considering maybe even becoming engaged again, I don't think you're ever too old to go through premarital counseling again. Because I think when you're moving into a new relationship, you can be so excited, like, oh, I have this feeling and I haven't felt this for a while, and sometimes that we can have those blinders on, and we can have some blind spots and miss some things. And so when you sit down with someone, again, this is not a commercial for long haul marriage, but we do a lot of
Oh,
premarital.
yes. Yes, it is.
We do premarital counseling with people who this is their second marriage or their third marriage, and it's just the conversation's different than when we're meeting with a 19 and a 21-year-old. The conversation's completely different, but it's still relevant. It's still so important because there are some key things that we work through. We talk about financial stuff and what's your plan for that. We talk about sex and what's your plan for intimacy and communication and conflict resolution, and what are some things from your past relationships that you may be dragging into this one that you didn't even know, like Mark said, you didn't even know, and so I think premarital counseling, when and if you get to the point where you want to become engaged again, it's gotten that serious, I think can be a huge, huge help, because it brings one or two people into the story, into the situation, that they're not in the big middle of it. They can see it from kind of an outside perspective, and they're not on the side of either of you. They want you both to win, and so they're going to help bring some stuff to light.
I've got one thing that I would be totally remiss if I didn't say this for a fit over 50, because 85-90% of people in relationships over 50 are in blended families. And one of the patterns that I've seen over and over and over, it's just such an easy trap to fall into, mistake to make, what have you, is so the one spouse has these adult children, and they're very, very close to those adult children. And then the new spouse comes in, and let's say it's the father, and he's got the three girls, and they're on a group text, and the girls are always needing dad. Well, and then the new woman feels like, good night, we can't even go on a date without you getting on your phone, because they call and you jump and say how high on the way up, kind of thing. And then she starts to resent not feeling like a priority.
I think what you just shared, Brian, is an interesting point, is that you have competing values, and when you're in
priorities.
a relationship,
Yes.
If that new person feels like they're lower on the value, and this is what I struggled with, man. I said this to everybody I was dating. I said, listen, if I don't have my kids in my life, I'm not going to be any good to anybody in my life. So I have to make sure that is the case. So ultimately, it has been very strained for the most part here. But I know with time and everything else, it will get better here. So,
and the mistake that the guy makes, then it's not just the jealousy of the new partner, like, hey, well, why am I not a priority? It's he's overcompensating and overfunctioning many times because he didn't love the hell that he feels like he put him through in the divorce.
Yeah, there's guilt.
And so it's an easy mistake to make. That's what I'm saying. And man, once you start to hear that and frame that, and then anyway, so that's a common thing. So it's like, okay, you don't have to miss the mark, the sin. It's an archery term. And so here's the target, and you missed it over here. Well, now you're going to swing the pendulum over here. It's like, no, we need to heal that so that you can hit the mark, still prioritize your new spouse. Your kids are adults, they'll be fine. Don't have to over function because you don't want to put them through that's just such a common scenario, and I hope people hear that.
Well, what about a red flag of you just brought up, you have somebody who has kids and then you date somebody who's in their 50s who doesn't have kids? I mean, because that's kind of a unique mix, because one is not, it's like oil and water mixing together.
Yeah, somebody who doesn't have the perspective of a parent and they don't understand that previous relationship. I mean, I was trying to frame this in my head. I mean, God forbid something happened to Jamie, but 36 years of marriage, but I've got a 31-year-old daughter, 29-year-old son, and 24-year-old son. That's 31 years with her, and then some new person comes in. Like, how in the world would I feel like that my priority with Chandler and my years doesn't take precedent over that new person? So yeah, that's gonna be a tricky one for sure.
Definitely. Kelly?
Yeah. You both mentioned that when you're looking at a new person and you'd ask these questions of them. Well, I know, Brian, you've done thousands of hours of counseling, tens of thousands. You listen to someone's story by 50 years old, a lot has happened. I mean, one person has not had, oh my goodness, every family's there's depression, there's suicide, there's, kids are on drugs. I mean, at what point you're like, is this too much? Like, can I handle this? It's like you listen to anyone's story by this season and they have been through some stuff.
They walk up to the date with a big bag of trauma and say, "Here you go. Are you okay with this?" And you're like,
"Yes." And I'm telling you, I would probably not be doing this, and I would have just said, just throw a grenade in and run. You're like, If I mean, literally, I get that. But if it weren't for hearing like Richard Rohr's describe falling upward, because it is that second half of life, which is not about chronology. It's about, he says you meet cancer patients in the cancer ward at 12 years old who it's about dying and resurrecting. It's about that evolution of consciousness, and it's about being this new person. And hear me, many adults, they never make it. They're just kids. They're just stuck. You see the pettiness and the immaturity, and I don't know why we're surprised now that it's being megaphoned out on social media. But hey, again, this is not about heaven or hell. This is about when Jesus says, wide is the way that leads to destruction. Many there, narrow is the way that leads to life, and few find it. This is what he's talking about. It's just hard. You said it earlier, Mark. It takes a lot of work to heal.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I think I would be more afraid, Kelly, if I met someone new, which I'm not meeting someone new, but if I was
knew
single,
it. Heard it here first.
If I was single and meeting someone new, I think I would be more afraid of someone who was like, nope, everything was good for my past. Like I haven't really done a lot. I've heard some people say that when we meet with them, they're like, there's really nothing there. I'm like, okay, you're just not ready, or you just, it just has not, come to the surface yet. You've done a lot of pushing. So I think I would be more afraid of that than not someone who's just dealt with a lot and still dragging that into it, but how much have they healed from that? Yeah. What are some things that they have brought into their life to become the person that they are now? Yes, these are some of the experiences. This is part of my story. And I heard something one time that said you cannot you cannot amputate your history from your destiny, because that's where redemption happens. And so there is a purpose for everything that has happened. There is a history for sure. But how have we healed within that history? And then what are we bringing into our future, into our destiny? I mean, it can really be just the most valuable thing that we can bring moving forward when we choose to do all the stuff that we've all been talking about this whole time. What are some things that they have done along the way to help their heart to heal and be open and be ready, to be the person that may be ready for you, or you may be ready for them. So I think I would much more look for that than the person who's just shiny as a penny with a bow tied on top.
Good point.
Yeah. and I'll share a little bit of what kind of my philosophy and insight since I've been out in the battlefields here for a bit here. So I think as we get older, I'm 58 at this point, you kind of have that in the back of your mind. Well, I don't want to die alone. I want, to rush things along. Why wait? Or, why wait? I think you really get to know somebody in a 3-year time period minimum, because in a 3-year time period, you're going to go through crap. You're going to have a death. You're going to have a financial mess. You're going to have something happen to one or both of you. You're going to have, economy up, economy down, things take place. And I think if you're here and you're 50 plus and you're looking to be dating there, you don't have to rush it because you're thinking time's running out. That 3-year window is something for me that's very, very strong principle that if I invest in a relationship before I take it really serious. And that doesn't mean I don't become serious until 3 years. It means I would never even think about, getting married or doing anything like that if it wasn't for a 3-year time period for me personally. So hopefully you all get something out of that.
That's really wise, Mark. Many people don't subscribe to that. Matter of fact, when I tell young couples that they should, back in the day, Jimmy Evans was saying it all the time, that you should, with Marriage on the Rock, Marriage Today, that ministry, he would say, be engaged, no matter how long you dated, be engaged for a minimum of 2 years before you get married. It was just that, and we, none of us, right, when you're that young, it's like, oh yeah, well, that's for everybody else. But you're right. It's you got to see what you're getting into. Yeah.
You got to make a stew and you got to season it up. So it takes a little bit of time there. So
I want to see them in every season. Well, we have a little speed round of questions for you, and then we definitely want to tell people how they can find you and learn more about long haul marriage and your program. So, first question: your first date, was it a sweet memory or something else?
Jamie?
It was a sweet memory. We were at Abilene Christian University. I was a year younger than Brian. It was Sadie Hawkins, and one of my friends said, "Oh, I know someone you should ask out. He's so cute, and he has such a good voice." I'm like, "Okay," and so I called him. It was back in the day before cell phones. Called him at his basically, frat house, all these guys, and left him a message. Never heard back from him. Called him again, left him a message. So 3 different times I called him. Finally, I ran into him, and I passed him, and I was like, "Oh," and he said, "Hey, Lori." I went, "Oh." Okay, so I don't know. But then he finally called me back, and we set a date, and my date was to invite him to church and to lunch. I wanted to take him to church so I could hear his voice, and sure enough, it was angelic. I loved it. It was beautiful. So that was our first date, and then I never heard from him again. And so the next month, I needed a date.
Ghosted her?
Yeah,
I did.
totally ghosted.
You're the OG ghoster? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So needed a date the next month for a sorority thing at school. And guess what I did? I invited him, and we went and we had the best time at this sorority party. And I never heard from him again. And then the next month, which was November, I needed a date for another thing for sorority. I mean, y'all, I'm not like this. My dad did not raise me that you call the boys or you invite the boys. Like, no.
Sadie Hawkins. Yeah.
Something, but I was outside of Sadie Hawkins. That was in September. I've invited him now on a third date.
Okay.
In November, it was a thing where we all got to go to the Abilene Civic Center and have a group of kids where we kind of adopted them. They were from a children's home in town, and we just got to play with them all day and take them to do different activities and make stuff with them. And he said when he saw me in that light of being a mama, that maternal nature, he was like, ding, 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 something shifted in him. So I just had to stick with it. But
you were almost 3 strikes and you were out. You made it on the.
I don't know after that.
You were 0 for 2, man. That's not a good baseball odds there to be swinging back here.
So rude. So rude.
Wonderful. All right, next. A phrase you say to each other that still makes you laugh.
Wow. Well, so every single day we get in a mud tub, 45-degree water, and we do it together. I did it the first day in our swimming pool back October, like 2 years ago, and she started the second day, and we haven't missed since, but it makes me laugh every day. She'll say, well, are we?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, we are.
Love it. One thing couples over 50 need to stop doing.
Making love. That's it. No?
Boom.
No, don't say that.
My thing is, I would say quit coasting. Quit thinking you're done.
Yes.
Stop not learning. Go do something new. Try something new, learn something new. Yeah, don't think you're done. That's the problem. Age is the relentless pursuit of comfort. Don't be comfortable. They're like, oh, I could never do cold water. Okay, well then go get in cold water. Yeah.
Very good. Most underrated part of a strong marriage.
I would say what come full circle to what I said at the very beginning. Just put your freaking phone down, look each other in the eye, talk. Brian and I call it happy crappy. Let's go through the day or the week and talk about, what was happy about that? What's been crappy about your day or about your week? And it might take 15 or 30 or an hour, however long it takes. Just simple eye to eye, knee to knee.
I'm going to tell you what I think the most underrated thing in your marriage and the cold read here is you guys have an incredible sense of humor
Yes, the
that
laughter.
weaves into your marriage. And that is not in every marriage. And you could, it just oozes out of your pores. And that's big. I think that's,
Yeah.
Thank
Aw.
you. Yeah, I would
you got to
agree.
be able to
Yes.
laugh at yourself, man. So no doubt. Kelly, next.
Bible verse that you turn to the most when counseling hurting couples.
Yeah. Wow. There's a couple, but one I say all the time because it again, a reframe. So a man thinks in his heart, so is he. If you tell yourself, hi, I'm Mark and I'm an alcoholic, it's like, that's the only part of that I don't like. I get it. Staying grounded and reminding yourself who you are is like, I'm a good man. I'm a good father. I'm a good husband. I've already admitted what I did. And it's so a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And then the other part is you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. Yeah. Jamie, what about yours? That's mine.
I would think Psalm 23, which is it doesn't sound like it really goes with marriage, but what it really points to is allowing God to take you down by those still waters. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. So when you can focus on that vertical relationship with God and you feel that intimacy and that closeness, everything around you with the horizontal relationships, whether it's friendships, your marriage, your children, everything around you can change. So that would be the one I would pick. Psalm 23.
You really put this, who's the better listener? Do we need to ask this? We already know this, okay? Who's the better listener? Please. Brian got no shot at this. But go ahead. Who's the better listener?
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
I'll give you a shot to redeem yourself, Brian. Let's see. Let's see you spin this.
No, you're right. She's the better listener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys are.
Yeah.
We're just not wired to be that good of listeners. We tune out, unfortunately, but we're good at compartmentalizing things. That's for sure. So we can have a problem here, and a problem here, and a problem here, and still be able to focus on the tasks at hand. That's one thing we are very good at.
And I don't know if it's ADD, ADHD, but I definitely got the squirrel thing going on, and I think I can multitask. It's like, no. She's like, okay, I've lost him. But she's made a believer out of me. I know I need to work on that, and I try to.
But also, you do listen for a living. Right?
Yeah.
Good at it. He's good at it.
Yeah.
One thing married couples think helps, but it actually hurts.
You know what the first thing I thought of, and we haven't even talked about it at all, but so many couples, they think porn helps. They think porn is going to spice up their love life and their sex life. It's like, in swinging, it's like, nope, guess what? It never ends well, period. Yeah.
Good one.
And I was going to mention about something on porn there, so I'm glad you brought that up. So
Yeah.
what do you do when that's a situation there? Next question, or did you want to address that, Jamie, too?
I would say one thing that I thought was going to help early in our marriage. Brian was super confident. I don't know if y'all can tell that, but he was super confident. And when we got married, and that kind of became an irritant, it turned to, wait, he's actually not confident. He's kind of cocky. Like, I might need to take him down a few notches. And so I was going to teach him a few things. And so that was never a good idea. So that kind of puts you into the mom, son, and no one wants to be married to their mom. No one wants to have sex with their mom. And so whenever I was trying to cut his legs out from under him and teach him a few things and help bring him down, so he wouldn't have such a big head or whatever I thought, it backfired. It did not work at all. So I think whenever you talk to your husband like a son, it just never really works out.
That doesn't go well, for sure. Yeah. What is the go-to marriage rescue strategy? And why didn't you share it for Kelly and I like 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Where the heck were you two?
I'm just such a believer in repair attempts, and they have to be able to land. And then and then you have to make the repair attempt early, and don't let it go 2 hours, 2 days. I mean, all the time we wasted with silent treatments and just being, nursing that. It's like, hey, wait a minute, babe, that didn't feel right. We try to repair something right after the damage gets done, and we're getting really, really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Favorite couples activity that always reconnects you?
That is easy.
Y'all know it now.
Sex.
Okay, that too.
That works. That was the fastest.
No, what's cool,
round.
honestly, what's cool is, I mean, I did this for so many years myself, by myself with couples, and Jamie did too, and now us doing it together. I'll tell you, when we, and I say this, not just being on a podcast, but when we sit down and we share with a couple and we come out of there, it's like, man, babe, high five, it just, we feel like, we're a team. Yeah. Friendship, team.
And that raises your sexual energy amongst you, because you feel like you're fulfilling things that you're meant to fulfill, and that makes you guys closer. That's fantastic there. So, what keeps you fighting for love even when it's hard?
You said it earlier, Mark, and so Jamie learned that, for the marriage thing. Man, I when my kids are over here and there's their friends and my grandkids, I literally look around. I don't care if my grass is green, how much money I have in my bank account. I'm the richest man on earth. I mean, that is my definition of success. And so I'll do anything for that. Like, literally, I tell people this all the time. If are we tempted? Of course, right? And maybe you get tempted less and less because you're saying no. There's never a maybe. But when you're wanting to, not just, in some kind of even sexual temptation, but just temptation to mess it up. It's like, I don't want to be sitting in the living room across from my kids at the family meeting and, okay, you did what, Dad? With who? Or what? I see them. I see the grandkids. I see the legacies. Like, again, you get it, both of you. It's like, I just don't want to have that conversation. So it's like, man, it's a no. There's no maybes. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything more painful than that, for sure. For me, at least. It's not fun.
Right.
But let's wrap this up on a high note here.
This
Kelly?
has been so fun, and we want to tell people how they can get in touch with you. We want to share you in all of our places. We will do that. But what's the best way for people to find out about your counseling, your programs, your workshops, all your newsletter? I get that, all the things.
Awesome.
One-stop shopping. Go ahead, James.
Yeah. So www.longhallmarriage.org. And you will find everything there. You will find any of our services. You can read about us. You can see any of our services. It'll pop up and ask you to become a long hauler, and that's just saying you want to subscribe to our newsletter. And so we send that out once a month. We won't spam you like crazy. It will tell the newsletter will keep you informed of anything we have coming up. Which, by the way, tomorrow night we're doing a parenting workshop online on Zoom, so people can join in Thursday, May 29th at 8 o'clock and be a part of that. And our grown kids are all going to be on that.
So longhallmarriage.org, it has all of our services. It has where you can donate, our donation platform, and it also mentions our podcast, but I want to mention our podcast. So we have the Long Haul Marriage Roadcast. We call it the Roadcast, right? And that's on Apple and Spotify and iHeartRadio and YouTube. It's all the major platforms. So we would love it if you would, become a listener of our Long Haul Marriage podcast.
Well, we will put all the links in all the places that we'll post this. And Brian and Jamie, thank you for bringing truth and hope and healing to the conversation, as so many people are silently struggling. And whether you're fighting for your marriage or you're healing after divorce or wondering if love is still possible in your 50s and beyond, and even if you're younger, we know you work with young people, you work with children. Thank you for your wisdom and letting people know it's not too late, that you can reconnect, you can rebuild, you can experience redemption and not have shame, and so many great points. So Long Haul Marriage, it's not just a name, it's a vision, and it's possible. And thank you for leading people with grace and just your boldness and your courage and your commitment. We're so grateful for you. Thank you for sharing your hearts today. And we just want to evangelize all that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. This has been a great conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That's a wrap. We will see you all on the next episode. Make sure you check these guys out. Awesome people. See y'all.